Welcome to the TruGolf Academy. You've joined me, Jon Watts, today in my swing studio, and today's video is all going to be about the Harvey Penick magic move that he talked about in a few of his great instructional books, the Little Red Book, the Little Green Book. So we're going to go a little bit onto that with my modern take of what he was talking about with the trail elbow in your golf swing. Stay tuned to find out more. As mentioned, today's video is all going to be actually about the trail elbow and the trail hip and how we can connect those two for a better impact. And this video, I guess, was inspired by Harvey Penick. Unfortunately passed away a few years back, but a fantastic gent, great golf pro, great golf instructor. Talked a lot about trying to make the game simpler, and he talked a lot about his magic moves, and this is one of, or my take on one of his magic moves in the golf swing. So talking about the downswing and how we can connect that trail elbow to that trail hip. So he talked a lot about trying to keep that trail elbow in front of you, which I 100% agree with. You know, we don't want the player getting trapped in a position where their elbow's moving too far behind them, or if the elbow's getting a long way out this way, too far in front of us, we can have some issues. So it was trying to keep the elbow in front of us, but quite well connected towards the trail hip. So what he's actually describing there is that we've actually got this trail elbow bent and moving in front of the hip, which I have talked about before. But what I want to talk a little bit about is how that move, keeping that trail elbow in front of us and connected to this trail hip here, will still mean I've got some bend in that trail elbow by the time I hit the golf ball. By connecting it towards my trail hip, it will really help me open up my hips and open up my shoulders. And what he didn't talk about, but definitely happens when we make this movement, is you can see I have got this side bend, okay, away from the target this way with my upper body, which is what we really want to see. What we see with a lot of golfers who let this elbow straighten too early, so they don't keep it out in front of them, is more of an extension. You can see almost trail arm and club shaft one straight long line, so they don't create much shaft lean. You'll see that the body is almost very tall, shoulders are quite level, and it doesn't look a very powerful impact position. Whereas this movement, if we can keep that trail elbow in front of us, connect it to the hip, I've still got some side bend in there, looks a very powerful move, and I've created a lot of shaft lean, which is going to help me strike ball then turf, and it will take a little bit of loft off the golf club. So the average on tour is 11 degrees of shaft lean with a mid-iron, so meaning their handle is slightly ahead of the golf club. What we see far too often with amateur golfers is the handle more level, or perhaps still those golfers who are hitting weak high ball flights and losing distance, potentially their hands behind. And when we see this trail elbow stop moving, maybe behind the hip, and we tend to see their body quite extended, almost shoulders quite level. They haven't got this side bend in here. They definitely still haven't got flex in that trail elbow. So what I want you to do is just actually make some swings where you just return the club back to the ball, focusing on this trail elbow, one staying in front of you, two staying connected to the trail hip, and automatically that has given me my side bend, and that's kept that trail elbow slightly bent here, so I can get that ball turf contact. Where I'm extending, where I'm straightening, is here into impact. This movement, what we're not doing is extending and straightening very early on our downswing. So we want some of that side bend into impact before our body is extending. It's feeling like my belt buckle is pushing up and left. We're not going to get too caught up on that. I've done a lot of videos on it, but trail elbow staying in front of me, connected to the trail hip. You can still see I've retained that angle with my trail arm and club shaft. And it's a really powerful move, and it feels like all I can do is strike that line where the golf ball is. I'm not going to be hitting way back here too early. So let's try and put this into just some slow movements hitting a golf ball. So I'll click on the screen. If you haven't read any of Harvey's stuff, it's well worth a read. A lot of what he's written is still very relevant today. He kept the golf swing very simple, but as I said, this is one of his magic moves, keeping that trail elbow in front of you and the connection with the trail hip. So, let's get to the top. Trail elbow in front of me, connected to that trail hip. So we can just go ahead and make a little slow movement to here. 1, 2, 3. And that feels very, very solid into impact. So just doing some little broken down movements. Let me do one more of those. You'll have seen me do a lot of exercises like this before. Great way to feel it. Right elbow stayed in front of me, very connected to the hip. Little pump movement, and I'm just going to turn into impact so my hips and my shoulders are very open. You can still see that's meant I've got that little bit of flex in that trail elbow. 1, 2, 3. So they feel very, very solid, like all I'm going to get is ball turf contact from there. So I do lots of those before putting it into full swings. But really, you can do this, a lot of this at home. Just make some golf swings, just coming back down to impact. Rehearse what movement you want to be. Focus on that trail elbow in front of you, connected to the trail hip. And moving here, you can see that my body is very, very open. Pressure's onto my lead side. I've still got this little bit of lateral side bend that we really want to see. Let me go ahead and see if I can put that into a full golf swing, but I'm going to just do it with less pace, trying to focus on that trail elbow. Good. So I really got that sensation by doing it at a slow pace, not worrying about the distance. I could really try and feel that elbow was staying a little bit more in front of me into impact here, and I wasn't losing speed and getting that right elbow disconnecting away from my body. I was able to keep it more in front of me, very connected to my trail hip, like I could feel on those very short, broken down movements. It's a great area to focus if you're struggling with impact, if you're adding loft, if you're flighting it too high, not getting that ball turf contact. Have a look at that trail elbow and how that moves in your downswing, the connection towards your trail hip, and take a little chunk out of Harvey's book there. It's very relevant still to this modern day of coaching. Well worth a read. If you did enjoy the content of that video, if it has helped you, make sure you give us a thumbs up and do subscribe to the channel. It is for free. New content every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 5:30. Thanks guys, we'll see you soon.